At 4:50 hours on December 12, 2025, a Russian military convoy valued at $500 million is positioned 10 miles from the Crimean Bridge checkpoint. Within 6 minutes, this critical resupply operation will transform into a cascading series of secondary explosions visible from orbital reconnaissance platforms. The cargo includes custom-engineered hydraulic coupling systems representing Moscow's final contingency plan to restore bridge functionality before Christmas. However, the convoy commander will soon discover why modern air defense doctrine has failed to adapt to asymmetric warfare tactics. 4:44 hours, 6 minutes before initiation. The pilot designated Ghost, the same F-16 Block 50 operator who successfully prosecuted the Crimean Bridge strike 72 hours prior, has returned to the operational theater. His previous mission achieved direct hits on the bridge deck using GBU-39 small-diameter bombs. He has reloaded ordnance and received new targeting coordinates. This mission profile focuses on eliminating the repair infrastructure before it reaches the damaged structure. The atmospheric conditions above the Taman security checkpoint present near zero visibility. Dense fog banks create a thermal blanket effect, reducing optical and infrared sensor effectiveness to negligible levels. For this operation, designated Sky Salt, these conditions provide optimal concealment. At 15,000 feet altitude, 8 Ukrainian Dove Bush T-10 heavy unmanned aerial vehicles maintain patrol patterns 30 miles from target coordinates. These platforms function as airborne deployment vehicles, equivalent to strategic cargo aircraft in miniature scale. The mechanical bay doors cycle open. 48 fixed-wing first-person view glider drones release into the airstream. Upon separation, the wing assemblies deploy automatically, allowing these units to exploit natural air currents for energy conservation. This glide profile maximizes battery endurance while maintaining kinetic potential. Below the cloud deck, maintaining 50 feet above sea level to exploit radar shadow zones, the F-16 Block 50 penetrates hostile airspace at Mach 0.9. Ghost occupies the cockpit, generating 29,000 pounds of thrust. Mounted on underwing hardpoints, 4 GBU-39 precision-guided munitions await release authorization. The target package sits 15 miles ahead. 30 Kamaz heavy transport trucks compressed bumper to bumper at the checkpoint security perimeter. Cargo manifest analysis indicates custom hydraulic coupling hardware acquired through sanction evasion networks, plus industrial oxygen cylinders, sufficient to generate catastrophic overpressure events. The primary obstacle is the S-400 Triumph air defense system. Technical specifications classify this platform as a strategic area denial weapon. The 92N6E phased array radar tracks 300 simultaneous targets and projects a 250-mile engagement envelope. Russian air defense crews monitor their display consoles. Suddenly, sensor returns indicate an apparent heavy bomber formation. The Dove Bush motherships execute intensive electronic attack protocols, broadcasting signature profiles that mimic strategic bomber radar cross-sections. The S-400 threat display resembles a Christmas tree experiencing electrical malfunction. This represents the first critical decision point. 4:45 hours, the electronic warfare phase initiates. The Russian air defense commander at Kerch demonstrates tactical competence. Observing the sensor disruption pattern, he correctly assesses jamming operations in progress. He recognizes the bomber fleet as digital deception, a stratagem that has compromised Russian networks repeatedly. Maintaining active radar emissions simply broadcasts his exact coordinates to every anti-radiation missile system in the Black Sea theater. He makes the ruthless but logical decision: terminate primary radar operations. The S-400 system powers down. He transfers engagement authority to the Pantsir-S1 point defense systems guarding the checkpoint perimeter. His directive is straightforward: switch to electro-optical tracking modes. Locate hostile units using thermal imaging sensors and prosecute targets accordingly. This approach appears sound in theory. In practice, he has just ordered his personnel to perform a near-impossible task. Requesting a Pantsir operator to identify a plastic glider inside dense fog banks using thermal cameras compares to locating a mosquito in a darkened room using a laser pointer. The dense fog functions as a thermal insulation barrier, scattering heat signatures across the electromagnetic spectrum. These first-person view glider drones lack hot turbine engines. They exploit wind currents for propulsion. To a thermal sensor array, they register as essentially flying ice cubes producing minimal infrared signature. The Pantsir crews stare at gray static noise on their displays. Desperation drives decision-making. The commander authorizes missile launch. 4 57 E6 interceptor missiles accelerate off the rails, reaching Mach 4 velocity as they enter the fog bank. Let us examine the financial accounting for that trigger pull. Each Russian interceptor missile costs approximately $1 million. They have just expended $4 million worth of ordnance into a cloud formation. The result? 2 missiles lose guidance lock immediately and detonate harmlessly. 1 missile achieves a proximity hit on a glider, converting a $500 plastic airframe into confetti. Putin has just traded a Ferrari for a skateboard. The Pantsir system switched to their twin 30mm autocannons, saturating the airspace with thousands of high-explosive rounds. The swarm absorbs casualties. 5, perhaps 6 gliders are shredded by cannon fire. Ghost observes the tracer rounds erupting from the fog. He tightens his grip on the control stick. The fog above the checkpoint flashes orange. The engagement has devolved from a chess match into a knife fight. The artificial intelligence controller on the Dove Bush mothership issues the kill order. Execute pattern Delta. 42 surviving gliders cease drifting. They tuck their wing assemblies and pitch down in unison, accelerating from harmless floating toys into 120-mile-per-hour kinetic missiles diving straight into Russian gun systems. The Russian response demonstrates ferocity. The Pantsir crews switch their 30mm autocannons to cyclic rate, dumping 5,000 rounds per minute. Streams of tracer ammunition crisscross the sky, creating a literal ceiling of hot steel. The first wave of 10 gliders flies straight into this meat grinder. They disintegrate instantly. Plastic, copper, and circuit components are vaporized. But the physics of the swarm begins to overwhelm defensive capabilities. A Pantsir turret can traverse 100 degrees per second. The drones approach from 360 degrees. The servo motors overheat as gunners desperately attempt to snap from target to target. A glider slips through and impacts the command vehicle's windshield. Another strikes the missile rails of the Western battery, detonating ready to fire ordnance. The explosion flips the 30-ton vehicle onto its side. Ukraine appears to be winning. But the Russians have been holding back their ace card. The Russian commander screams a code word: barrier. 4 specialized Tiger M vehicles unleash their payload. They fire canister rounds into the air above the convoy. These canisters release a dense conductive aerosol cloud, essentially a metallic fog designed to short-circuit electronics and block radio frequency signals. The effect on the cheap first-person view gliders is catastrophic. As they fly into the silver mist, their control links sever instantly. 20 gliders drop out of the sky simultaneously, falling like dead birds. The swarm is dead. That leaves exactly 1 target remaining on the board. The Russian commander activates the Kolchuga M passive sensor array. It hunts for the faint electronic heartbeat of Ghost's radar altimeter. Inside the F-16 cockpit, the environment goes from silent concentration to a rave of warning lights. Ghost's blood runs cold. The unknown source warning light screams red. He is triangulated. The S-400 battery at Kerch roars to life. 2 48N6DM missiles blast out of their tubes. They are being guided by data link to Ghost's exact grid square. These monsters accelerate to Mach 6 in 4 seconds, closing the 12-mile gap faster than Ghost can blink. He is alone, exposed, with 2 telephone poles of high explosives screaming his name. This represents the second critical crisis point. Ghost yanks the control stick, banking the jet so hard the G-force crushes the air out of his lungs. Ghost is pulling 9 Gs as he exits the brake turn, the G-suit squeezing his legs like a python to keep blood in his brain. He levels the jet at 100 feet. The threat warning display screams a solid red tone. The S-400 battery has a hard lock. 2 48N6 missiles are 7 miles out and closing at Mach 6. These are radar-guided killers tracking the radar reflection of his airframe, burning a hole through the sky straight at him. Normally, this is the part where you eject, but Ghost does not reach for the yellow handles. Instead, he does something insane. He pushes the throttle past the detent, lighting the afterburner. The General Electric F-129 engine dumps raw fuel into the exhaust stream, igniting a 30-foot blue flame. He is not running away. He is charging, accelerating toward the missiles. 600 knots, 700 knots. He is playing chicken with physics. Why? Because he needs kinetic energy for the toss maneuver. At 4.5 miles out, the S-400 missiles enter their terminal phase. Their onboard radar seekers activate, painting him with lethal energy. Ghost screams through his oxygen mask and yanks the stick back into his gut. The F-16 snaps vertical, rocketing from sea level to 5,000 feet in seconds, converting massive speed into altitude. This is the loft maneuver, a tactic perfected during Vietnam-era operations. As the nose passes 45 degrees pitch up, the flight computer calculates the release solution. Pure mathematics. Speed plus angle plus gravity equals trajectory. 4 GBU-39 bombs detach from the pylons, thrown by the immense momentum of the jet. They arc upward like artillery shells, climbing toward the stratosphere to gain range. Now Ghost is naked, hanging in the sky, slow and vulnerable, a perfect radar target with 2 missiles seconds from impact. The lead S-400 missile wavers as it hits the chaff cloud, its seeker confused by the sudden bloom of targets. It screams past Ghost's canopy, missing by less than 500 feet. The sonic boom alone rattles the jet, but the second missile is smarter. It has advanced electronic countermeasures. It filters out the chaff and reacquires the physical mass of the retreating jet. Ghost braces. He is out of energy, out of altitude, out of ideas. Then a sacrifice happens. 2 of the Dove Bush motherships loitering high above receive a final override command. They dive into the path of the missile, activating their electronic warfare pods to seduction mode, broadcasting a radar signal that mimics the signature of a massive B-52 bomber. It screams, "I am the target." To the missile's logic processor, programmed to prioritize the largest threat, this represents the primary target. The S-400 missile takes the bait. A massive fireball erupts in the sky above Ghost. The shockwave slams his F-16 downward like a giant hand. The motherships are vaporized instantly, trading their cheap plastic frames for a $60 million fighter jet. Ghost wrestles the controls, leveling off just 50 feet above the Whitecaps. He is alive. His heart hammers against his ribs. But the Russians at the checkpoint are not looking at the escaping jet. They are looking up at the explosion, cheering. The Russian commander sees the fireball and observes the debris falling. He thinks he just scored an F-16 kill. He orders his men to stand down. He has no idea that 4 precision-guided meteors are currently falling silently toward his head. This represents the third and final climax. The first GBU-39 corrects its course using GPS and inertial guidance. It is not aiming for a tank or a radar system. It is aiming for the third truck in the convoy, the one with the green canvas cover carrying the industrial oxygen tanks. 3, 2, 1, impact. The bomb punches through the engine block and detonates inside the cargo bay. The explosion is blindingly white. The oxygen tanks rupture, releasing a massive cloud of pure oxidizer that feeds the initial fireball. The temperature spikes to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit in a millisecond. The shockwave rips through the bumper-to-bumper convoy, cracking the casings of hydraulic fluid drums on the next truck. The atomized fluid ignites in the oxygen-rich environment. It is a chain reaction. Truck after truck goes up like a string of firecrackers, but each firecracker is a 20-ton vehicle loaded with flammable cargo. The checkpoint disappears. The expanding fireball engulfs the nearby Pantsir battery. Its sensitive radar panels melt like wax. The missiles in their tubes cook off, adding solid rocket fuel to the inferno. From 12 miles away, Ghost sees the horizon light up. It looks like the sun is rising in the wrong place. The Christmas gift for the Crimean Bridge is gone. The hydraulic couplings are molten slag. The convoy is a smoking scar on the earth. Putin's bridge is not getting fixed this year. Ghost banks his F-16 toward home, disappearing into the mist. He checks his fuel gauge, 800 pounds, just enough. He keys his microphone, breaking radio silence for the first time. Delivery complete. Do not expect a tip. Let us examine the brutal mathematics on the scoreboard. On the debit side, Ukraine spent approximately $1.3 million, covering jet fuel, 4 GBU-39 bombs, the swarm of cheap first-person view gliders, and 2 sacrificed Dove Bush motherships. On the credit side, Russia just lost a convoy worth an estimated $500 million. But the dollar sign is the least of Putin's problems. The real catastrophe is time. Those hydraulic couplings were not generic parts. They were custom-engineered, massive steel components smuggled through a labyrinth of international sanctions. Replacing them is not a matter of writing a check. It will require at least 6 months of desperate back-channel negotiations and manufacturing lead time. That means for the next half year, the Crimean Bridge, the main artery feeding the entire Russian southern front, remains a crippled single-lane bottleneck effectively on life support. Every tank, every artillery shell, and every liter of diesel fuel destined for the trenches will now have to take the long way around through muddy, partisan-infested mainland roads. By destroying 30 trucks, Ukraine did not just win a skirmish. They successfully choked the logistics pipeline of an entire army group. In warfare, amateurs discuss tactics. Professionals discuss logistics. Today, Ukraine proved they are the professionals. But here is the part that really stings for Moscow. This attack proves that their supposedly impenetrable air defense network has a fatal systemic flaw. They spent billions constructing a fortress designed to fight NATO bombers and cruise missiles. They built 10-foot steel walls to stop a tank. But they have absolutely no answer for a swarm of $500 plastic toys combined with 1980s jet tactics. They are trying to catch mosquitoes with a sledgehammer. And they are missing. Ukraine has transformed the asymmetry of warfare into an art form. They use cheap, disposable technology to force Russia to expend its most expensive, irreplaceable missiles, then slip a dagger through the gap. The doctrine is simple. Make the enemy spend millions to counter thousands, then exploit the economic and strategic imbalance. Ghost's decision to charge the S-400 missiles was not recklessly brave. It was a calculated risk based on sound tactical principles. The loft maneuver required kinetic energy, which could only be generated through acceleration toward the threat. The sacrifice of the Dove Bush mother ships was pre-programmed into the mission profile as a contingency measure. Every element of this operation was planned with surgical precision. Will Russia fully repair that bridge? The answer is no, not in any meaningful time frame. The Crimean Bridge is destined to remain a strategic vulnerability, a single point of failure in Russia's southern logistics network. Ukraine has demonstrated both the capability and the will to strike this target repeatedly. The lesson is clear. Modern air defense systems, no matter how sophisticated, cannot adapt quickly enough to counter asymmetric threats combining cheap unmanned systems with conventional strike aircraft. The Russians built a fortress to fight the last war. Ukraine is fighting the next one. At 4:56 hours on December 12, 2025, the Taman checkpoint ceases to exist as a functional logistics node. The Crimean Bridge remains crippled, the Russian southern front remains starved of critical supplies, and somewhere over the Black Sea, a single F-16 pilot banks toward home, having just delivered a masterclass in modern combined arms warfare. The bridge will not be repaired this year. The professionals have spoken.